Hello, Chris here. Today I want to talk about mitochondrial dysfunction. So, as you can see from the map on the screen, this is how my mitochondrial dysfunction has played out. And it's going to look different for everybody because there's over 100 different ways that mitochondria can go wrong. So for me, this has led to things like my Ehlers-Danlos, asthma, premature ovarian insufficiency, adrenal insufficiency, Raynaud's, celiac, immune compromised, anxiety, depression, carnitine deficiency, mast cell activation syndrome, functional neurological disorder, and then all the things that come with those things, and then the things that come with the medications for those things, and then the ways that those medications actually further mess with mitochondria. So it is quite complicated. And one of the ways that they can diagnose this is through the Newcastle Mitochondrial Disease Scale. Exciting stuff. And on there's one for kids, there's one for adults. So that looks at things like your functioning. So can you dress yourself? How's it affecting your speech, your swallowing, your handwriting? And if you're looking at mine, it's pretty clear. Mine's pretty bad. Your exercise tolerance. For me, that's one of the frustrating things is I work out between an hour and a half to 3 hours every day, 7 days a week. And according to my Apple Watch, I still have like poor exercise tolerance, and that will always be the case no matter how much I work out and how fit I am. Because my mitochondria are dysfunctional, I will never have the energy required to build real muscle mass. And other things like migraines, GI issues, respiratory issues, visual issues, so things like ptosis, which I get sometimes, so my one eyelid will droop down, muscle myopathy, neuropathy, and there is primary and secondary mitochondrial dysfunction. So primary is genetic based, you're born with it. Often children who are born with mitochondrial dysfunction as children don't make it to adulthood. And then there's secondary, which can be triggered by environmental causes, medications. Sometimes there is that primary that's there, and then an illness or something like that will trigger more symptoms. So what are mitochondria? They're your powerhouse of the cell. So when they don't function properly, your organs can't function properly, and your entire body system can't function properly. So they generate power from our food. So dysfunction means we don't metabolize our food properly so that it can become energy. So they also decide which cells are destroyed, apoptosis, oh my gosh, that word. And they store calcium and they do heat production. So that's part of why I can't regulate my body temperature. I'm either too hot, too cold, I have to wear layers. Sometimes I'm literally pouring sweat off of me, and other times I'm so cold I'm shaking. So basically, mitochondria are not well protected. They really suck at protecting themselves from things like free radicals, which damage our DNA. And because these are produced during APT synthesis, which mitochondria are in charge of, it causes more problems. So when they stop functioning, the cells are starved of energy. And if the cells are starved of energy, then our organs and our body system is starved of energy. And there are hundreds of mitochondrial diseases because mitochondrial DNA is everywhere in our body. And this can have physical as well as psychological impacts. So it can be things like poor coordination, weakness, muscle weakness, which I have. Anybody who knows me knows I walk into walls on a very regular basis. Vision and hearing problems, learning disabilities, which I have several of as well. GI problems, lots of those. Problems with heart, liver, kidneys. As time goes on, can lead to things like dementia, bipolar disorder, Alzheimer's, lots of other symptoms in there. But the hallmark of mitochondrial dysfunction is that it's more than one system. It very rarely just impacts your heart, let's say. It's going to be multi-system, multi-organ, and it can manifest at any age. Usually when it's manifesting later in life, that's secondary, and it can overlap with many other different conditions. So for me, it overlaps with my EDS. So your mitochondria influences the neuromuscular components of connective tissue, and Ehlers-Danlos, EDS, is a connective tissue disease. So this can lead to things like joint laxity and dysautonomia, which is the POTS that I have, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I have videos on these other things if you're interested. It can also lead to things like adrenal insufficiency and other hormone issues. So for me, that was premature ovarian insufficiency sort of started those hormone issues. Carnitine deficiency, which I have. So carnitine turns fat into energy. And because I can't properly get carnitine from food, I take a supplement, but that's still not quite enough. So my body doesn't know how to turn fat into energy properly, which is why I'm pretty much always tired. So some of the causes of death from this are respiratory failure. Aspiration is something that happens quite frequently. That is a problem for me. Sometimes it's very hard to chew and swallow my food, so I will aspirate my food sometimes, which obviously can lead to death. Cardiac failure, seizures, strokes, but 50% of people who have mitochondrial dysfunction die from cause unknown. Because mitochondria are everywhere, it can go wrong in a lot of different ways. There is no cure, and there are very few treatments. Mostly it's a roadmap. So I have my little map that I made, which is my literal roadmap, which kind of lets you know what systems could malfunction, so doctors have an idea of what to look for if things start going wrong. So the only sort of treatments there are is supplements, so things like CoQ10, alpha lipoic acid, B complex, vitamin C, L-carnitine, but you have to have this done very specifically. So I take L-carnitine because I have a carnitine deficiency. If you don't have a carnitine deficiency, you don't need to take L-carnitine. Exercise can help with things like muscle wastage. Use it or lose it. For me, I have 3 days of inactivity and my muscles literally start eating themselves. Avoiding mitotoxins. So a lot of drugs are mitotoxic, so I have to avoid a lot of things. If I was to get sick, I have to be careful what antibiotics I take, and absolutely no fasting. When I was a kid, I didn't know I had this, and I would go for a sleepover at a friend's house, and they would eat at 10 o'clock versus the 8 o'clock that I was used to eating at, and I would be white as a ghost, shaking, sweating, dizzy, and we can actually die from fasting, so it is not a thing we can do at all. The other complication is medications that we take. So for me, because I have Addison's, I have to take steroids every day. Steroids are also mitotoxic, so the things that are keeping me alive are simultaneously killing me. So super fun. Overall, the biggest thing to remember about mitochondrial dysfunction is that our mitochondria are a powerhouse. So if we don't have enough power, we don't have enough energy. So people with mitochondrial dysfunction have no other way to be but tired all the time. I hope that was helpful. Have a great day.